It has changed me as a person.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
I'm Nicole Stroman. I'm a photographer. We're at the Holter Museum of Art in Helena, Montana, and this is Aftermath.
I'm Jamie Eastwood, Executive Director of Breathe, which is a nonprofit based out of Helena. We focus on suicide prevention and awareness. Nicole and I got together over a photograph that was on Instagram.
That one behind us.
Yeah, the main one. And we just knew something had to come about of it. So with my passion of suicide and her passion of photography, we came together and created Aftermath.
I grew up, I never was affected. Personally, I didn't know anybody. I was lucky that way. And then it hit our family with my niece. And you'll see that I've dedicated this to her. She inspired me to want to do something because, you know, you feel so helpless. You can't fix it. And so what I noticed is that no one was talking about it. And I thought that was really strange. And so I met Jamie and we started talking about it and trying to figure out a way to get other people talking about it. And so as me being a photographer, I thought, well, can we do this in a creative way? You know, a way that isn't just statistics and just, you know, nothing like that, a creative way to capture the emotion and the feeling behind this really big epidemic I feel like we're having right now, especially here in Montana, especially in Helena, especially with our kids.
The idea is to break the mold or stigma, I hate that word, but break the stigma of what people believe suicide looks like or who's affected by it. So many times we're missing the mark because we don't look at the high achieving youth. We don't look at the high achieving adults. We have a tendency to think that they seem like they have everything together. The funny kid, just the stereotypical normal person is kind of what we miss a lot of times. The kid, we have to understand that usually the quiet kid in the corner is comfortable with their quiet. Okay, so if you're not comfortable with your silence and then your brain starts to go and you get racing thoughts and so on and so forth, it has a tendency to lead to, I want this to stop, you know, and it gets tiring. When your brain doesn't shut off, you get tired, emotionally and physically in a lot of cases. And then sometimes we end up with situations like this where we have survivors that are left behind due to that. In the show, we have people that have attempted and survived. We have people that have lost people. We have people that are supporters, that are just there to kind of keep the peace when things do go awry in somebody's brain. We were really blessed actually to have 25 people come to us and say, we want to tell you our story. And even though it's the aftermath, even though it took something so traumatic to get them to be heard, they're still hurt, you know. And a lot of these people are people that are on the backside of it. You know, they've lost somebody to suicide. Mm-hmm. And that's the crummy part, is that they didn't have an option. You know, somebody that's fighting suicidal ideation, there's options. These people they didn't have an option. You know, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And that's probably something that's the biggest thing for them to be validated, is like, my heart's broken today because somebody made a decision and now I'm left with the aftermath of their decision. Right. You know, and that's part of what we want people to understand as well, is that your decision has consequences. We can't unpull that pebble from the pond once you've dropped it. And that ripple effect has just, you know, hit the masses. And they say for one suicide, 6 people are affected. Well, that might be on an average, but I can tell you that way more than that in the state of Montana. You know, I know
even
that
Helena,
one person on this list lost somebody and it affected an entire community, you know, and those need to be validated too.
This affects everybody. This isn't just, that's why, and I think doing it this way, it's gonna draw in maybe somebody, we might trick them a little bit and think, oh, what's this aftermath photography project? And then go, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna realize, hey, I know that person. Oh my gosh, you know, suicide is the second leading cause of death in our youth. Like, they're gonna learn something and realize it's not just within your own household and your own family, it's your community too.
It's a silent killer is actually truly what it is, because people die alone because they feel like they're alone. And that's the hard part. And it's, when you ask the question, are you suicidal, or do you want to die, or do you have thoughts of hurting yourself? That gives them a platform. And a lot of times what you'll see is you'll almost see a relief, like, oh, thank God, somebody has heard me, somebody has seen me, somebody is understanding that I'm not doing okay. The idea for Aftermath was to cause a movement, not just a conversation. So that's a huge difference. The night that it opened, and we had friends and family from the exhibit, so people that were a part of it, they were able to invite people that they wanted to have conversations with, and there was conversations started that night, and which was great. But now we're pressing for the movement. Now we're pressing to, you know, 40 years ago when AIDS was on the rise and we didn't know anything about it and we kind of shied away from it, a movement began, and now we're embarking on a cure, and all these cool things are happening with it. That's kind of where we're at with suicide. Nobody wants to talk about it, because if we talk about it, then it's going to happen. Well, newsflash, if you're thinking about talking about it, then somebody's already given you a reason to talk about it. So we're past that point, okay? It's not like if I say the word, then it's going to plant the seed, then the action's going to happen. You know, it goes the opposite way. The action's already probably in motion. You're just now picking up on it, so say something. Between the suicide hotline, between the suicide text line, between Breathe, there's a ton of opportunities to get help to someone. And we can't stress that enough. There's resources available. You just have to utilize those resources. I want them to be able to look at somebody and say, I don't want somebody to have to feel that way. So what can I do to be the catalyst to help them not feel that way?
Yeah, the compassion component is huge. I think if you had to say like one thing, you know, would be just having compassion for your fellow human, would be the big answer. But I think, like I said before, if we only help one person, if one person comes in here and they are thinking tonight, I'm done, I'm ending my life, and they come in here and they look at one of these faces and decide not to, or they see their neighbors look in one of these faces and goes over there and says, hey, how's it going, Mary?
Yeah.
Then we've done our job. I mean, like I said, we don't have the answers. We aren't here to say we're right, you're wrong. We're here just simply to say, this is a problem. We need to figure out how we can help each other.